So a recent data mine of the Nintendo Switch playtest program could have just proved some pretty big features for Switch 2, one of which I think is a given, and we have seen it spotted in data mines in a previous title before, but now that we know that backwards compatibility will be for sure a feature, it is worth revisiting this conversation to talk about whether or not some of our Switch 1 games could enjoy something like upgraded resolution when running on the next gen console. And the second feature that was data mined as part of this playtest program has to do with something fundamentally very different than what we see Nintendo do today in terms of their game development, and it's actually yet another tool for developers to be able to streamline these games for further enhancements in the performance department. And some of the late life cycle Nintendo Switch releases have definitely proved that we could use that going forward. So we're going to get on the same page with all of this info. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first hop over to WCCF Tech, where they have the following breakdown on the two different things that have been spotted here. So Nintendo Switch 2 mesh shaders 4K resolution support suggested by new data mined information. Nintendo Switch 2 may support mesh shaders judging from some recently data mined information that has been shared online this week. As reported by WaterTune, the code of Nintendo Switch Online playtest, which was held in the past few days for an unannounced game, reportedly features support for mesh shaders and 4K resolution, neither of them supported by the current console. Considering how the Japanese company's president Shintaro Furukawa confirmed that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be backwards compatible, there's a very good chance that these features will be supported by the yet to be revealed console. So while we know that things like backwards compatibility are a confirmed feature now since Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa confirmed it, what we don't know is just how much of a performance gain, if any, will we get from popping in our existing Nintendo Switch games today. Now, to first tackle the 4K resolution support, we have actually seen this data mined information in prior titles for the Nintendo Switch, most notably Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. Now, depending on if you believe any of the reports that the Nintendo Switch 2 was once upon a time internally planned for holiday season 2024, that is up to you if you believe those reports or not. Clearly, we did not see that happen, but obviously internal things happen behind the scenes all the time, and we don't really always get the full story until afterwards. Sometimes years in the future, if we learn it at all. Things like the Giga Leak do happen online from time to time, where Nintendo's plans were revealed for the Switch 1 to actually launch in holiday season 2016, but it got delayed until March of 2017. So it is plausible to think that some of these later generation Nintendo Switch releases were planned to have something like 4K resolution when you would be playing them in your next gen console, because while backwards compatibility is pretty cool and I'm extremely hyped that we have it, it would also be very nice to see some core updates in terms of base resolution and functionality. And while this will be upscaled 4K, not native 4K, and it's probably going to use things like DLSS, which will be baked into the supposed T239 NVIDIA graphics processing chip that will be in this upcoming console, just imagine if you could pop in some of your favorite games from your Switch's library, some maybe that you felt like just didn't run quite up to standard on the current Nintendo Switch. I can think of Echoes of Wisdom with plenty of dropped frames and issues in the overworld primarily, but nonetheless still very noticeable. Absolutely loved my time with that game, but there's no denying that it has some performance problems. Well, with an unlocked frame rate and a software update, I would hope that there's a way for that game to essentially take advantage of the more powerful processing power that is in the Nintendo Switch 2. And some of these games that are being developed currently, like the playtest program, which of course we can't show footage of or anything like that, but it's essentially like an MMO Minecraft type of experience mixed with some Roblox, where you're working together with a number of different players to set your beacon as high as you can and build within the land within that beacon light. And since this was an early playtest program and not a game that is ready to come to market yet, it is very plausible to think that Nintendo is thinking ahead with this particular title, because it might actually launch as something like an expansion pack benefit when the next gen console is out, but it will also be supported on the current Nintendo Switch, because obviously we also had alongside that backwards compatibility confirmation that Nintendo Switch Online will be rolling forward to the next gen console as well. So the prospect of things like 4K resolution being able to be taken advantage of with some of the current, at least Nintendo Switch games, is an exciting one, albeit not guaranteed just yet. But it does make you question if Nintendo would go back and do something like upgrade some of their existing Nintendo Switch titles, like we have that outstanding rumor that there is actually an internal code name for U-King-O, which is a supposed Breath of the Wild remaster, which sounds like that's way too recent, but we did have those reports from Gamescom 2023 that there was targeted spec PC hardware showing off Breath of the Wild in 4K and running with no load times and at 60 frames per second being presented to developers, and Nintendo could have a certain upgrade path planned for certain titles that are very successful on the Switch family of systems, like we see Sony do, most notably with The Last of Us Part 2 and Horizon Forbidden West, and hopefully they don't treat that as replacing any upcoming releases for franchises and keeping them as kind of like deluxe versions, because I don't think we need all that, but it would be nice to have some enhancements if it's just available for something like a $10 upgrade, or maybe if you're a Switch Online member, you get that upgrade path for free. Nintendo could get creative with this, and that part is exciting. But the part 2 that was mentioned here is mesh shader support, and this is pretty big from a development perspective, because while we talk about Nintendo having some access to new tools like DLSS, this at the end of the day is still going to be a hybrid console, which means yes, we're getting a bigger footprint this time around. It's going to have an 8-inch LCD display. We saw those leaked CAD image renders, which were tied to the shell of a prototype of the Switch 2, which appear to be legit. It seems like this will indeed have a substantially larger footprint than our current Switches today, but you still have to pull all the levers you can to optimize things like game development and mesh shaders to kind of get a TLDR explanation of what it is. This is where AI comes in a little bit handy, as ChatGPT provided this summary about it, which says mesh shaders are a new way to improve 3D game performance. They let developers break objects into smaller meshlets that can be processed independently. This allows only the important parts of a scene to be rendered, reducing GPU workload. The result is smoother performance, especially in complex or large scenes like open world games or detailed environments. So the fact that code for these mesh shaders have been found in this online playtest program on Switch 1, and there is no support for any game that uses mesh shaders on Switch 1 currently, this is a big indication that Nintendo is likely developing this playtest program game as a cross-generational title, and we know NSO is cross-generational, so I do think there's a handful of games that this could really make sense for in terms of late Switch lifecycle releases that might just be updated and ready to go and run more effectively on next-gen hardware out of the gate. A game like Metroid Prime 4 comes to mind. Imagine if, even if this game just comes out for the current family of Switch systems, if in this game's code it is already geared up and ready to go to take advantage of things like a 4K upgraded resolution via upscaling and the streamlined technology of mesh shaders, and it just looks and runs that much better on the next gen hardware out of the gate. That is what I am hoping we see Nintendo start to do, because there is no denying that at the point we are in the Switch's life cycle, while like yes, we have some pretty exciting games to look forward to still with Prime 4 on the current family of Switch systems, with Pokemon Legends ZA, Xenoblade Chronicles X, and Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Beyond that, we don't know what Nintendo is planning, and we are seeing more frequent issues and reports and complaints of unstable performance and just downright broken games in some cases, and this is obviously something that many of us would like to avoid altogether when we're talking about the successor to the Nintendo Switch. So having this officially data mined and out there in a current Switch game that is being still actively developed right now, it's not done yet, it's a very good indication that Nintendo will be planning some kind of performance upgrades for select Switch titles which can support it, and I'm hopeful that some of our Switch library will be able to run at 4K, and maybe some of these late life cycle releases will support better tools like mesh shaders, in addition to being able to take advantage of DLSS on the next hardware to just have that much more of a smooth gaming experience if you are somebody who will ultimately be an early adopter of Nintendo's next gen hardware. But that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, what you make of all of this. Do you think that at the end of the day, we will see Nintendo support some kind of upgrade path for our current library of Switch games, and there will be a select handful that will be upgraded via, whether you think it be a $10 upgrade path or just something that's included in the cost? Or do you think Nintendo actually goes the route of re-releasing a handful of games at a full price, like $70? I hope that's not what we see them do, but how do you think they will handle this? And between technologies like mesh shaders being supported on Nintendo's next gen hardware and DLSS, are you that much more hopeful that we will have some solid gaming experiences without too many bugs, glitches, and performance issues out of the gate and for the foreseeable future with their next gen console? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.